start in a second.
Recording is on.
All right. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. We're very excited to kick off here this community call number 1. We plan to be regularly hosting these, and hope everyone's weekend was great, and you maybe had a chance. We tweeted out yesterday our project proposal, kind of an overview. So that's going to kind of be, our main points of talking today. Will be sort of going over our DAO approach, our REN token, and then we can get into any questions and get some community input. So awesome. So I myself, I'm Nick Vale. Can I handle all things business, marketing, etc.
This PDF file of figure 5 and little more wells.
You can mute up the audios, I believe.
Who's that? Yeah, Yodgus.
Perfect.
You could just mute him. There you go.
Awesome. Perfect. So like I said, I handle all things business, marketing, etc. related here. My past kind of stems through the gaming industry. Currently work part-time at the Sandbox. I've been involved sort of in the blockchain space since 2015, more as a specific full-time job since about 2 years ago. So yeah, Eric, Naz, if you guys would like to introduce kind of what you're up to, about yourselves as well.
Just gonna jump in quickly. My name is Nazri, and I was working here in London as a quant for about 3 years. I've quit summer 2020 before it all started going crazy, and pretty much ever since I've been working on reNFT.
Hey guys, my name's Eric. I have been working in the DAO space for a few years now with DAO Stack, and also participating in various DAO communities. And yeah, I've been working with Naz and Nick on kind of governance and DAO design and some tokenomics for a couple of months now. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
Awesome. So I'm going to share again in here our Notion doc that we shared kind of mid-afternoon yesterday. For anyone that hasn't had a chance to sort of take a look and brew over, this is really kind of our grounding base, if you will. We sort of wanted to, introduce a bit about our project, what our exact approach is, how the DAO will function, how our token will function, how the platform will function, etc. Kind of how, ultimately the end goal of this is to, get more people involved, kind of explain how really any of you can even get involved if you'd like. So here, let me pull up. Well, let's get right into it. Let me see if I can share my screen on here. Bear with us as we are sort of new to Jitsi here. Eric or Naz, are you guys able to share your screen? Well,
I think it's in the top, in the bottom left. There's like a computer monitor.
Yeah, sharing screen bottom left.
Yeah, my permissions are off. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. We'll see.
Yep.
Perfect. So, briefly going over our vision, the ultimate reNFT vision is, really bringing any asset, whether that be physical, digital, as this NFT technology evolves on chain, with a rental use case. We see that anything from currently in the current landscape, more in the gaming realm, gaming assets, virtual land, yield multipliers, etc. But, as this evolves, we see a lot of opportunity around, real property, intellectual property, access, social tokens, etc. This can get a bit crazy, and we see this vision expanded out a lot more than currently today. So how the platform actually works, Naz, if you'd like to go into that a little bit, it's pretty straightforward. Our iteration 0 that we'll be launching over the coming weeks here on Ethereum mainnet is very straightforward. The contracts are very solid. We have over 2,000 lines of tests now. We've been working on this for quite some time.
All we've been doing is testing and testing. That's why it takes so long. So to give you a quick rundown of how it actually works, it's a single contract with the resolver that resolves the payment token. We have extracted the payment token from the main contract to fit the lending and renting into a single storage slot, so that only costs our users 20,000 gas on top of the default 120 to send in an ERC 721, for example. And we have batch transactions in there to save you gas as well. And you can send any combination of 721s and 1155s, and it will figure out what is the best way to batch them together to save you the most gas. But in terms of the interaction with the contract, it's quite simple. Imagine that you have an NFT that you would like to earn some income on. So what you do is you log into the app, and you want to lend that NFT. You need to specify a number of things. You specify the rental price, which is the daily amount that will be payable to you. Then the next thing is that you need to determine the NFT price, i.e., what is the actual price of this NFT that you have, and max rental period, so that it doesn't allow anyone to rent it out from you for more than that. So after you've specified all of that, it creates this lending in reNFT's contract. It takes your NFT and it sends it to our contract. And so the next step is basically finding the renter. So now we have a list of all of the things that are available for rent on our website. We have implemented a subgraph and it indexes all of those things. So we just pull from the subgraph all of the on-chain data. So now if you imagine that you are the renter and you come onto the reNFT platform, then the things that you need to specify to be able to rent out that particular NFT is how many days you would like to rent it out for. Another thing is that there is a missing bullet point in there. When you're a lender, you're also specifying the payment token. So it could be DAI, it could be USDC, USDT. We use a UINT8 to represent that. So there are 255 possible choices in there for you. In terms of the payment tokens, we will start with the stable coins and Ethereum and WETH, but then and going forward, we'll have to carefully think about what other payment tokens to add, because obviously for ETH, when you get that collateral, ETH can move and you can become under collateralized or over collateralized, and we're not dealing with that in this first version. Just trying to make everything extremely simple so that it works and there are no the hacks are not possible and it's super secure. Well, it's not possible to say the hacks are not possible, but to minimize that possible event. And okay, so you are the renter. You have selected the NFT that you would like to rent out, and we've just talked about how lender is specifying the rental price and the NFT price. So now what happens is that the renter specifies, okay, I want to rent it for 3 days. and we compute the rental price times the days to arrive at the total price if the renter were to hold it full time, and then additionally we add on top of that the collateral. So it's a pretty large sum, and it is quite prohibitive. But we imagine that the use cases initially would be for the high value tickets. And as we move forward, there are a lot of ideas about how to remove the collateral issue completely, and how to make it possibly even pooled, etc. But that is the amount that is taken from you, and it is sent to our contract and sits there in the escrow, and you get back the NFT that you wanted to rent. And so you get back the time by which you need to return this NFT. And if you fail to do so, then the lender will have the ability to claim the collateral, but obviously they lose the NFT. Whereas for the renter, if you actually indeed return it in time, then we compute what is the unused amount of your rent, and we send it back to you, as well as the collateral. So it's a very simple contract, but it achieves generalized lending and renting. And we obviously understand that there are some NFTs that have renting and lending inbuilt, and we'll be very happy to integrate those into reNFT, because it makes obviously no sense to pay the collateral on some things that have renting inbuilt. And that's that from me.
Awesome. Yep. Like Nat says, this first initial version is very bare bones, but works very well.
If you guys have questions, just drop them in the chat as well. There are a few questions around audits. There's gonna be an audit, things like that. So just drop them in there, and we'll answer them.
Perfect. Cool. So to get into, we're going to be skipping around a bit in here, but to get into some of the adoption cases we expect to see, and again, these are very open, right? The entire point here is just giving some ideas that we think could work well. Given the space the NFT kind of realm is evolving, this is up to the user to ultimately decide, right? We want this to, we supply the tools and people can get as creative as possible with it. But out of the gate, a lot of the things we expect to see are definitely gaming assets, as these gaming experiences further adopt NFTs, as well as blockchain games built on top of this technology that have been virtual lands, as we mentioned, the Sandbox, Axie Infinity, Decentraland, desired locations, etc. In-game items that are very scarce and rare. There's specific ones depending on the game that could boost the abilities, etc. Limited wearables. We're seeing all sorts of digital fashion sort of evolve that people might not want to sell, but they might not be wearing it in their metaverse experience and might want to rent it out and actually generate income on that asset. As well as an interesting one we're actually exploring is around virtual ad space rentals. We expect to see, in these metaverse games, as they further evolve, in-game ads and billboards becoming very, very prevalent. We could, imagine a world where an NFT billboard is rented potentially hourly, daily, etc., on high traffic games or world areas, etc. Another big one, we're seeing a lot of these DeFi projects integrate, yield multipliers, the wholly held power card, for example, to boost your APY, multipliers for staking, etc. In the digital art realm, we could see, imagine a scenario where a very rare and expensive art piece is put on for a gallery, for a virtual company event, or whatever the case is. A lot of these art pieces, the user isn't going to want to sell, right? But they might be willing to generate some income and loan it out for a art fair or a virtual exhibit. We're seeing a lot of these metaverse museums as well. They could quite literally have a rented curation that rotates every single month, every single week, whatever the case may be. Things like we're seeing insurance plans put on as NFTs, domain names. The domain industry is huge. Never have you been able to just rent a domain, right? People flip domains. It's a very big space. And I think we'll start seeing more and more of these, traditional domains start integrating technology like this years down the line. And then marketplaces. So, reNFT isn't trying to reinvent the wheel here on a marketplace. We're ultimately wanting to be a protocol layer, right? We want to be integrated anywhere and everywhere there's a use for NFT rentals. We want to get in the direct integrations with the OpenSeas, the Raribles, Cargo, etc. And I think there's a lot of interesting uses for this. While we will have a front end, we're not essentially trying to be a competing marketplace, right? We want to be integrated with existing marketplaces. And then another trend we're seeing sort of emerge, I think is still a bit early, is sort of access NFTs, social access. We're seeing a lot of the celebrities pour in, or the influencers. I think the ones that will stick around will be the ones that are doing it properly rather than the cash grabs, and more of, exclusive fan clubs, direct access, private groups, all through NFTs. So you can imagine a scenario where people would be able to rent these out. So perfect. To move on, I'd like to start getting into sort of the rent token, the DAO approach, etc. And I'll hand it over to Eric to explain, kind of a bit about our DAO overview, how we view it. One thing that we've made sure from the start is we're all very community first. We think, the community is the project, and thus why we want a truly decentralized community governed DAO. We know the community is everything, right? So we want the community to benefit the most from this and ultimately steer the project.
Yeah, totally. So in terms of the rent token, it does have potential utility in the protocol itself. So Naz, do you want to give a little bit on how the rent token might be used in the protocol?
Yep. So there are actually a couple of things. So to begin with, wait a sec.
I'll kind of start for you. There's a few ways we kind of view rent. One of them is actually, we initially have some active things we're exploring. For example, we initially have this collateral issue on existing NFTs. ERC 721s and 1155s have no capability of being rented. They have to be collateralized, right? That's essentially any existing NFTs. And so, we see a scenario where this rent can be used as collateral to, for example, have no fees. So, the DAO generates revenue, or will generate revenue, through a fee incurred on the NFT owner's side. So that fee is to be determined, but that fee will be of the rental income generated. So we imagine a scenario, for example, where rent, if chosen as the collateral, staked, and that collateralization ratio is up to the NFT owner if they want it heavily over collateralized, under collateralized, whatever the case is, based on their comfortability. Using that rent token as collateral would incur no fees for them, for example. That's just sort of one way, as well as being able to put up a DAO proposal, for example, for airdropping further rent tokens to users of the platform who have incurred X expenses on the platform, or there's a variety of ways we can kind of expand upon it. But
Yeah,
simple sort of launch, it will sort of be a fee mechanism, as well as a few other things that I'll let Naz get into, or Eric.
yeah. The other thing that we talked about, which again, like a lot of these things are early, and when we launch, we're not going to have fees or things like that, but we can introduce them later. But one of the ideas we talked about was like, maybe it's something like synthetics, where all the collateral is in the rent token, and then you can rent out using the platform, kind of like how synthetics is the asset backing all the synthetic assets. But again, like a lot of these things, we're expecting to evolve with the community and have community input on, because I think it depends on what the users of the platform want, and things like that. So in terms of the rent token, there's this utility that can be in the protocol, but then rent token will also have governance rights in the DAO. And then in terms of what we're going to incentivize with rent token, the DAO itself has minting capability of more rent token. So we might use we might use rent to incentivize different behaviors. So some examples include LPing on one of the exchanges like Sushi Swap. People who are participating in governance. So if you're voting and active in governance, maybe that's incentivized with rent. And then people who use the reNFT platform could farm rent tokens as well, sort of like how buyers and sellers of on Rarible farm rent Rari tokens. So we could also there's also a plan to have rent allocated for contributors. So if people want to build on the protocol, they can get paid in rent. And then also early contributors and backers, like people on this call, we'd really appreciate early contributors and supporters. So if you guys want to drop your Ethereum address or something in the chat, that's cool. We can like record all this and then do some sort of reward mechanism later on, which we haven't really mapped out yet, but that's kind of the idea, is that we do want to thank early contributors. So feel free to do that.
Yeah, and I think that to Eric's point, like early contributors, we've obviously been heads down sort of working on our protocol and platform, but we've seen what's going on in the small community we've started building, and these early contributors like yourselves will ultimately be what steers the product. So, and that's how we want things to be, right? We want the people involved, and it's all community based is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Do you want to scroll down a bit, Nick?
Here. So just a bit about the DAO and what we see as being voted on and kind of how things will function.
Yeah. So pretty much anything you can imagine will be can be proposed to the DAO. Grants, protocol parameter changes, payment for NAS and whoever else is working on the protocol, marketing, content, whatever we want. I think it's just to help sustain and grow the ecosystem. So we're expecting this to play a pretty heavy role. And then in terms of like launching the DAO, do you want to keep going down on the tokenomics? Wherever that is.
Yeah, I think we had a bit. Okay, well, we voted on tentative milestones, adoption cases. Here we are.
Here we go. So this is tentative, what we're imagining for the breakdown. So early contributors, 15%, community airdrops, 15%. So whoever's dropping their Ethereum address will be included in that group. We're expecting a little bit of a broader airdrop to selected communities. So specific NFT holders from different communities we think could use reNFT. We want to make sure that they have some of the token and governance rights so they can help steer. Liquidity providers to Sushi. And then the bulk of the token, 60%, is going to be going to the DAO. So we want to make sure that we have a generous amount of tokens in the treasury so that we can sustain development and pay anyone who wants to contribute and keep working. To really just make this a community run project. So that's the idea. And we're targeting around in April sometime the airdrop, possibly before then. We're not going to be selling any tokens. We're not going to be we're not selling anything.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all a true DAO, right? Yeah, and to that point, for example, this treasury amount, like these are things for the proposals, right? As different NFT use cases evolve, we might see, hey, there's something very strong for this access NFT, a really big rental case here. Let's incentivize users to come list their NFTs on the platform, or get integrated here, or whatever the case may be. I think that's where we'll see a lot of initial use. So. Perfect. Awesome. And then let's see what else we had here. I think that's pretty much it. We can go over some of our tentative milestones. These are kind of work in progress milestones, obviously, given the nature of the crypto world, right? Everything moves very quickly, changes rapidly. So we're aiming still for a Ethereum mainnet launch Q1. So and this might slide a little bit, but we're I know we've been setting tentative dates, but this is a we want to make sure everything's done right rather than just pushing out a product. The DAO launch, as Eric mentioned, Q1 or more like late April, depending on when we decide to do this airdrop. Stay tuned. Immediately after we launch, we do want to port right over to Matic. I suppose now Polygon. We're seeing a lot of NFT projects move over there with the current gas issues. I think we'll continue to see that happen, especially over the next 6 months. But we're actively monitoring this, and kind of wherever NFTs with strong rental use cases are, we will make sure to be there and port over as soon as possible. Integrations with applicable products, etc. That's moving down a roadmap into more Q2. And then further blockchain support. Again, this is all determinant of kind of where the NFTs move. Like I said, we're seeing a lot moving to Matic, but I think that will start expanding out with the different layer 2s launching, further blockchains, etc. Few other things, our kind of gamified experience we initially had, sort of deciding how we want to go about that, but we have some framework done there about our leaderboard of top renters, lenders, etc. We can get creative here, especially with our rent token. And this will probably be more geared for the actual DAO, because the DAO will be launched at that point of proposals of how we can go about this. And then further ideas, in the initial Chainlink hackathon, we had implemented interest yield generation on the rental collateral to kind of hedge against this. We're still really thinking about this. It's something we've created already, but it only really makes sense for longer rental durations. So that's another kind of to be determined how we want to go about this. And again, this is kind of all up for community critique, right? So yeah, on that note, I'd love to hear. We'd love to go into some questions. If there's any further questions, concerns, comments, sort of anything, we're totally open, fully. So, and to answer your question, Rossi, there, the 2-year vesting, how we've been thinking about it is staggered release over the 2 years. So
it's probably worth reading all of the questions in the end, since there are quite a bit, but we can do that in the end, if or people can just unmute themselves and answer us.
Yeah, feel free to.
Yeah, sorry earlier about my about me and the token. I got a glitch on my computer and I couldn't move it. So thanks for jumping in, Nick. That was thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, to your question, Burp, how does it make sense to under collateralize an NFT rental? It doesn't. I mean, it depends on, I suppose, the NFT owner. They might have something with not as strong as a rental use case, but they think there's some rental use case there, and it might. I mean, ideally, you'd collateralize, right, at your actual value or more, depending on how much you think the market will move, how long the rental duration is, etc. But just an idea, people might be speculative of, if they're using a rent token or whatever the case is. So
if the lender sets their payment token in stablecoin, then obviously the only way that they can be under collateralized is if the actual price of the NFT moves.
Yep.
So you can minimize the chances of being well, there is no mechanism in this contract that would liquidate you. So it is completely up to the lender to decide on what config he would like to land his NFT with. And it obviously makes more sense to do it with stablecoins, but we wanted to drop in WETH and ETH in there just in case. If you think that's a bad idea, let us know, but I think it makes it a bit more generalized.
Will your platform or contracts house the payment processing? I'll let you speak to that, Naz.
What do you mean by the payment processing? Do you mean like all of the arithmetic in terms of computing the rent and taking the collateral, etc., storing it? Then yes, it's all in that same contract. It acts as an escrow as well.
Exactly. So it as you can see here, it does act as an ultimate escrow. So there is, in the case of a fraud case where the rental duration has passed, the renter hasn't returned the NFT, that collateral rather is transferred to the actual NFT owner. So it is a true escrow.
Mm-hmm. And the things that you can actually do with that contract are pretty minimal. You can, even not with that contract, in fact, you can for the resolver that gives you the address of the payment token, you can only add the payment token, and that's about it. And for that, we'll be using a multisig so that we don't have access to it. And the actual main contract, it doesn't have any only owner kind of aspects to it. So it's completely decentralized in that regard.
Mm-hmm. In terms of forensics and blacklisted addresses, will you be adding data like this into the platform? I suppose you might mean if there's a fraud case, is that address blacklisted from the platform? These are things why we want a true DAO approach, and to get the DAO out is so that we can put things like this up to the community. Do we want to be only whitelisting certain projects for rentals? Do we want to be blacklisting users? That kind of, how do we want that social mechanism to function? So I suppose sort of to be determined if that's what you're referring to. You talked a bit about access NFTs. Are you in talks with anyone in social media? Are you planning to do so? We're talking with a lot of different people in the NFT realm with interesting NFT use cases, but we don't really like to jump the gun. So we nothing sort of confirmed yet. A lot of people who have us on their radar want to see us on launched, right? So that's kind of where our main focus is on our tech and in getting the product out.
If I could also add to a question, Nick, about the blacklists and fraud cases. In fact, there is a very great GitHub repository that lists all of the metadata on ERC1155s and 721s, or maybe not 1155s, but I definitely saw it for 721s. And so what we can do and what we will do is a basic indication on the front end, like you have with OpenSea, that it's, for example, mintable or etc. So if the address is not on that list, then obviously it isn't verified. And of course we'll have the ability to manually whitelist the addresses. So even though, so as an example, there may be a new project like the Mooncats, for example, and we don't see that address on the list that I'm talking about, and so it will show you as unverified, but we can actually manually add that to the whitelist and get over that. So there is no mechanism that would block people directly, but there will be an indication that something might be wrong with that address, for example.
Yep, exactly. I want to rent my gotchis. Yeah, that's a, it's a perfect one. The wearables as well, right? Yep, on the Legati, Americans can use. Yep.
Yeah, this platform is completely decentralized, so we are not holding anything, right? The contract holds the NFT in the escrow, and it holds the money in the escrow. So yeah, whoever can use it.
So it really is a true DAO approach, right? We want, you know, the community as involved as we are, and anyone who wants to contribute and be paid to do so through token can do just that. Which to that point, we are looking for, you know, we definitely need a part or full-time or front-end guy would be great. And but if anyone's interested in getting involved further with the project, do reach out, because we have a lot of places we could use help. We thought about Uber, eBay style of feedback, i.e. on time, late, etc. Collateral is great, but it wouldn't be the NFT, so feedback review would be a winner granted each time. Yeah, definitely. And these are like things we've thought about, right? Is there's some interesting ways we can, as we start building a user base, even turn it a little social in that aspect, building an actual reputation. I know we've even looked at the Aave, what is it now? The Aave reputation.
Credit delegation.
Credit delegation. That's it. That's building. That could be an interesting implementation there. You know, perhaps as your quote unquote credit or reputation builds, your collateral ratio could decrease and be compensated with rent to make up that difference. But again, this is all, you know, when we cross that hurdle, that's definitely something we're thinking of, though. So.
We might have skipped actually a couple of questions at the top.
Let's look up there.
Like at the very top.
I think Eric might have answered in chat, but we can go over them. Union Finance has an interesting mechanism for this, where users can vouch for other individuals and pledge a certain collateral amount to trust. Maybe something.
Yeah, kind of like Circle CBI, where you have to trust other people.
Yep, exactly.
That would be a very cool iteration.
Yep. Again, right, these are things anyone of you guys, for example, could put up a DAO proposal as we build out this DAO and platform, and that's the beauty of it, right?
For sure, yeah. This is a great suggestion.
Awesome.
Does anyone want to talk to us? We feel kind of lonely when I hear your voices as well. Make this a true community. Well, someone actually said hi at the beginning, and then they were gone.
Awesome. Cool. Well, if anyone has any further questions, we'll sort of wrap things up. We're at 47 minutes in. You know, feel free to join our Discord, Telegram, Twitter. We're active on all. So, yeah, stay tuned. More announcements coming and more community calls. We're going to be doing these regularly now. So, exciting times.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for coming to the call today.
Awesome.
Yeah, see you guys.
All right, take care.
See ya. Bye.